Call the July 8th, 2019 City Council Committee of the Whole meeting to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Borowitz, Brereton, Crawford.
Here.
Alderman Frank will be absent. Freeman.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Ratcliffe.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Stevens. 6.
Here. Please amend the record to show that Alderman Burton arrived on time. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody had a nice 4th of July. Enjoyed the fireworks, although they were a little late this year. We did get them in. First up, we have nothing under public comment or public forum. Under reports of officers, boards, and special committees, we have nothing of note this evening. Under building, planning, and zoning, unfinished business, there is none. Under number 2, building, planning, and zoning, new business, we start out with A, the iWorks proposal from the building department. Kip?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff has been researching a new software permitting system for community development through webinars and speaking with other communities. The current program, GovQA, seems to be dated, lacks smart technology, autofill, and corrections to the system. Through GovQA is a hardship for staff. iWork Software Solutions has been providing governing solutions since 2001 and served more than 1,400 communities in the United States and Canada, including Freeport, Illinois. iWork will implement the system in 4 phases: initiation, planning, executing, and closing with the data center using Amazon Web Services. The iWork proposal consists of a community development package, which includes code enforcement, permit management, a permit portal, and a citizen engagement for concerns and complaints. The cost of implementing the system updates and maintenance will be $10,500, which is consistent with the budget for GovQA for 2019. Attached is a proposal from iWork along with other services offered with the software. I would recommend approval of the implementation of iWork software at an annual cost of $10,500 to begin implementation in July 2019 from line item 015-230-6190.
I have a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Crawford, second by Alderman Snow. Questions, comments, or further discussion? Alderman Snow, and then Alderman Porter, and then Alderman Freeman.
I don't profess to be a tech, so question on the Amazon Web Service. What does that consist of, and is that an additional fee that we'll be incurring?
It's not. Good format. We tested it. We played around with it a little bit. Proposals from other software to see if hopefully you can run it right now. Have it type everything in. It's not recognizing addresses. It doesn't recognize contractors. Everything has to be click with a mouse here and there. I could write out from faster than put them on current program.
Alderman Porter.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the cost here. You say it's consistent with the GovQA that we already have. What exactly is the difference in cost per year between these two?
It would be the same cost. GovQA right now, that's their price. If you look at the proposal, they knocked the implementation cost down, or I think they eliminated it, and other costs that in their original proposal, they waived those fees to be consistent with what we had budgeted.
Okay, and so the GovQA is what we have now then, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay, Alderman Freeman. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously and forwarded to City Council for further disposition, which brings us to item B, local landmark designation for 401 North Main Street, St. John's Church. Gina?
So St. John's Church is requesting local landmark status. The church was built in it was formed in 1901 and built in shortly after, in 1907. There's also an organ in the church from the early 1900s. The church has the original stained glass windows. The layout is a significant architectural layout of the time. The brick is still in good shape. The church itself has quite the history. It's one of the older congregations in Belvidere. It was led by a national scholar at one point. And the church is aware that once they landmark, there will be some restrictions if they ever do exterior remodeling, and they are okay with that. They are very proud of their building, and they want to be able to highlight it as a landmark. They also understand that by landmarking it, it allows them to apply for property maintenance grants in the future to hopefully help with some building repair that may be needed down the road. So staff recommends approval, and so does Historic Preservation Commission.
May I have a motion to that?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Crawford, second by Alderman Porter. Questions, comments? Alderman Snow?
So the biggest asset to having it designated this way is to potentially get some funding if they need some, that might be available for preservation and/or restoration.
Correct. The Belvidere Historic Preservation Commission does fundraisers throughout the year, and all that money goes to the property maintenance fund. And then every March, they award property maintenance grants, depending how much, how well their fundraisers went that year. This year, we were able to award a little over $3,000. And that would be for like tuck pointing, wood repair, repainting, stuff like that.
Yes, Alderman Porter?
So being a church, does this put this in the same category as a house that would have historical status, or is it a different category?
It's a local landmark status, so it would be the same as the houses. If they do a significant renovation on the exterior, they would need to go through the commission for a certificate of appropriateness. There's two kinds of landmark designations. There's a local landmark, which is overseen by the city of Belvidere, and then there's a national landmark. That's when you're on the national registry. That is what opens you up to be able to obtain federal tax credits for renovations. The church understands that right now they are applying at the local level. When we had the survey done back in 2013, Haggerty thought they are eligible to do national registry because of the condition of the building, but that is something for the church to consider.
Mr. Thornberry is here on behalf of the church. Yes, Alderman Snow.
And I noticed after the colorful grid map, down at the bottom of the application, it says ownership, private ownership. I'm curious, being a church, usually congregational, so I didn't know if that really means anything.
Church is owned by the congregation. There's no other ownership involved.
And I did speak with Pastor Muriel. I did speak with Muriel, and she is aware that Marion had applied, and the church did give them their blessing.
Any more questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously and forwarded to City Council for further discussion. Next up, we have the downtown facade improvement grant applications. Who wants to take that?
So the council had approved the downtown facade grant program funded by the video gaming revenue. The applications went out to everyone within the facade grant area, which is the majority of the downtown. Friday was the deadline for the applications, and it was nonstop. Like every time I sat down, another person came in with the application. So we ended up getting around $75,000 in requested funds, and you have $16,800 to assign. It was a very hard decision. Some of them The projects don't meet the zoning code requirements, so they were recommended for denial. Others, there was two ways to look at it. One, everybody gets a little bit of money, but then you run the risk of that's not a large enough sum for them, and the project doesn't get done. Historic Preservation has ran into that in the past, that the $1,000 wasn't enough, so they just didn't do the project at all. Or you focus on a few of the bigger projects that would have the biggest aesthetic impact to the downtown and award those. And that is what the spreadsheet in your packet show. Staff reviewed them, I gave my recommendation to the Historic Preservation Commission, and then they reviewed each individual one, discussed it, and agreed to give what's on that spreadsheet. And then, since it is a 50-50 grant, if any of the projects come in under budget, there would be some leftover money. That's why you see second round. In case there is leftover money, the commission would like to see those second round applicants get the leftovers.
May I have a motion to approve the distribution?
I'll make that
of grant
motion.
money? Motion by Alderman Crawford, second by Alderman Porter. Questions, comments, or further discussion? Alderman Crawford, then Alderman Freeman.
Gina, I just want to ask you one thing. On that front page, the spreadsheet there, we should be going with those, and that adds up to the 16,800.
Yep, so
Start off with those.
Yep, the
Okay.
second to last column was a recommended distributions. One got 5,000. That building is recently purchased, has been neglected for many, many years, and he has an uphill battle to bring it back. And then the other ones, we settled on the 2,500 because if they applied for the landmark property grant that the Historic Preservation has that I previously discussed, that caps out at 2,500, which is where that dollar amount came from. We kind of looked at it as if they went through the commission, that's where what they would have got. And then the one at 137 or State Street, I believe, he is doing the labor himself, which is why his dollar amount was lower, because he is doing the labor, which offset a lot of the cost.
Alderman Freeman.
Okay, so if I was on the committee, I would have said, I didn't get 515 South State in my packet, I don't know, but I looked it up online. That's Taft Insurance, I believe.
515 South State is a bricked-in building next to the chiropractic office, Wellness Tree Chiropractic. Are you talking about North State Street? There is a Taft Insurance did apply for one.
Yeah, no, this says South, so I wasn't sure where that was at. But anyway, the 140 North State, that's Sam's Pizza and Chapco. So Josie's doing like $32,000 worth of work.
Correct.
I feel like because that's such a huge building and she's putting that much money into it, Sam's has been here for 50-plus years, and with the recent passing of her father, I'm very thankful that Josie has decided to keep Sam's open and stay here. I went through them all. In the 319 South State, I think like kind of doesn't need that much work, and it's a $10,000 personal investment. And I felt like the 140 North State and the 515 South State have the biggest personal investments from the owners. And I kind of felt like being how they're all just partials, that $2,500 for 319 South State would be better served up in Josie's to $4,000, and the other one to $3,500 instead of $2,500.
I have a question, though. 515 South State says Paul and Lori Ullman. You didn't get that in your packet?
No, I don't have that one.
Oh, I have to get
Yeah.
For 140 North State Street, their project was really broken down into the repainting of the building and a new sign. One of the issues with the sign is that they didn't really submit what the sign was going to look like, or give too much information on the sign. So when the commission reviewed it, they focused a lot on the paint cost. So the repainting is out of that 32,000 they requested, the painting of the building was, hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. The repainting was about 12,000 out of that 3,200, so that's really the dollar amount we focused on for that. And then for 319 South State Street, we looked at it as the property owner, previous and current, have pretty much redone that whole building except for the metal facade. That's the last thing to get renovated on that building. So that's just where the commission's opinion came from. Obviously, Dr. Shapko, that's such a large building, getting that repainted will make a significant impact to that corner. And the other one, we looked at it as they've already done so much, and that's the last piece of the puzzle. It was very hard decisions to be made at the commission meeting.
Ms. Tobin?
If I could chime in, yeah, we spent a lot of time on this, and like I said, this has kind of been our baby downtown, trying to fix these buildings for a lot of years, as I'm sure you are too. But a lot of it, we also tried to look at what projects are going to get done anyway if we didn't have this grant program. Chapco's was going to happen regardless. I had a good conversation with him. He didn't even know about the grant really until I had told him about it, and he was able to get in touch with Gina. A couple of these other ones, we know that they're going to happen, but we still wanted to help them and show their support because they will make such a big impact downtown. We really wanted to look at the ones that will show the most aesthetic difference for this first go-around so that next year we can build up the hype and get people more excited about it so they can start to see the changes. So we really tried to focus on what's going to make the biggest impact and if the projects would happen if we didn't give them any money.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Snow?
So, looking at most of these though, because they are, except for the first one, they are such a partial payment, is it realistic that there would be a second round this year unless more money was appropriated?
Since it's a 50-50 grant reimbursement, on two of them, we were maxing out the full 50%. So if those came in under budget, then there could possibly be leftover money. And the other ones, yeah, they're just limited partial because there was such a large response, it was hard.
And also, if the projects even happen, I mean, the Apollo, we had given them a grant before a few years ago. It was a smaller grant. It was only $1,000, and she never did the work. So, so there is a chance that these people, if it doesn't, and they have 6 months. Granted, they can come back and ask for an extension, but if we don't think the project's going to happen, then it can go to somebody else who is going to do a project.
I believe the city attorney has comments.
I was just going to make sure the council and staff understood that even though the second round approvals listed on the spreadsheet, it would still have to come back to council for approval because the dollar amounts are not there. So you're not really approving those second rounds at this point. You'd only be approving the ones that are listed as approval in the first round. And if there's money left over, they come back again to you for approval of any further expenditures.
Additional questions or comments? Alderman Snow?
More of a comment. Thank you for the Historic Preservation Commission for delving into us and divvying it up as what they feel is the best, because it's got to be a tough decision. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
They do a roll call for a second.
No. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You confused us.
Next up, under Public Works, new business, we have an intersection review at West 5th Street and Garfield Avenue. Brent?
Thank you, Your Honor. A memo in your packet. Request came in for review of the West 5th Street, Garfield Avenue intersection. Currently, Garfield Avenue yields at West 5th Street. West 5th Street then stops at State Street 1 block to the east and stops at Pearl Street 1 block to the west. Speed limit is 25 miles per hour for both streets. Both streets have an ADT of 200 or less vehicles per day. Police department records indicate no accidents have occurred at this intersection in the last 5 years. Typical pedestrian activity at the intersection. There's no sight distance limitations. Based on that above information and IDOT's manual and uniform traffic control devices, no changes are warranted at this time for this intersection.
Okay. Questions or comments concerning the finding? Alderman Burton.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who requested this review, they couldn't be here tonight. I was just wondering if we could hold this over to the next Public Works meeting, maybe?
Is that a motion to table?
Or
Motion to table.
I'll second.
Okay. Are you making the motion and you're?
I do.
Okay. Consider it table
Thanks.
Without objection?
without objection. So, we always try to make everybody happy. So can you make sure they're here then? Okay. Tell them to bring friends too. All right. Next up, we have chemical disposal proposal.
From time to time, we have chemicals that we need to get rid of through the various public works departments. They're out of date, no longer used, and we need to dispose of them. We've got a proposal attached in your, along with a memo from Hapaco Environmental Contractors in the amount of $9,545 for the permitting, packaging, and disposal of the chemicals. I would recommend approval of their proposal, and this work will be paid for by line item 6158106040 and 6158206040.
Motion to approve. Motion by Snow, second by Porter. Questions, comments, further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Alderman Porter?
Yeah, I just was curious if there was any other companies that that do this type of thing and that we could get bids from, or?
We probably could. It's underneath, it's under the bid threshold. We've used Hapaco, used to be Trans Environmental Services. They were originally, recently bought out by Hapaco. We've used them previously in the past. They've done, in fact, I think they've done, since I've been here, they've done all of our disposal work for our extra chemicals and stuff.
Additional questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Next, we have the Wycliffe Lift Station Upgrade Bid Tabulation. Mr. Anderson?
Memo in your packet, we opened up bids recently for the improvements to the Wycliffe Lift Station. We received 4 bids. Stenstrom Excavation Blacktop Group was a low bid at $1,080,956.85. I would recommend approval of the low bid from Stenstrom Excavation and Blacktop Group in the amount of $1,080,956.85 for the upgrade of the Wycliffe Lift Station. This work will be paid for from sewer connection fees 05010, and the cost of this upgrade will be included in a revision of the Northeast Trunk Sewer Recapture Agreement.
Motion to approve. Motion Alderman Snow, second. Alderman Porter. Questions, comments, or further discussion? Alderman Snow, then Alderman Freeman.
Well, we had 2 numbers. As you know, this has been going on for a little while now. The budget number was $750,000. The latest engineer's estimate had bumped that up to $1 million, was $1,005,000, so just over $1 million. So the bids came up a little bit higher than anticipated. Basically what this does, if council recalls, this will maximize the capacity of the Wycliffe Lift Station. We decided for a cost savings measure to split the basin into 2. The original design concept was for 1 large station at Wycliffe, and because of the depths involved being over 40 feet deep plus and the requirements, the additional requirements that would require to be done to create the lift station of that depth, and we had CES look at the overall basin, and then we're going to end up doing 2 lift stations instead of 1. The second lift station will be located farther downstream along the river to the east, and that lift station will basically be a mirror image of the one that we're when this one's done here at Wycliffe, it'll be basically a mirror image of that. So, yeah, there's monies available in our connection fee money for sewer to pay for it. It is a little bit more than what was anticipated.
Additional questions or comments? Alderman Freeman, please.
So, I know we've talked about the Wycliffe lift station, but I didn't recall budgeting for it. And so I went back through here, and, you know, we have for repairs and maintenance for lift stations only $20,000 budgeted, and I couldn't find anything in our capital improvements. And then I looked at what our revenues are for connection fees, and they're only budgeted like $24,000. And we've already borrowed like $2 million from the connection fees to pay for the sludge thickening, which we're paying back $500,000 a year. So, yeah, I'm just wondering where the money's coming from, Brent.
Well, the current balance in the connection fees on the sewer side is $2.8 million. And it was budgeted, the Wycliffe lift station improvements was actually budgeted 1 or 2 budget years previously. But the fact that they're budgeted for, because it's out of depreciation and the connection fees, it doesn't come out of your O&M budget. So the money, if you don't spend it, the money stays there. It stays in that savings account for these types of projects. So if you go back farther, you'll see it. But again, the budget number originally, when we first started this, it was at $500,000, then it got bumped up to $750,000, and now the final cost, as per the bid, is $1,080,000.
So we basically have the money put aside in basically an account for this from a couple years ago after we talked about it then.
Yeah, we keep the connection fee account. Again, that's for the expansion of the system on the wastewater treatment plant side, which is what this is expanding the capacity of this plant.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously, which brings us to the Appleton Force Main Extension bid tabulation. Mr. Anderson?
Again, bids are recently opened for our Appleton Force Main Extension. This will complete the connection of the force main from the Van Epps lift station to the wastewater treatment plant. We received 3 bids. Apollo Trenchless was the low bid at $335,924. This is where the engineer was a little off on his estimate. The information that was provided to him indicated that it was going to be probably in the $120,000 range for cost. We had budgeted allowed for $175,000, and as you see, the bids, the low bid came in at $335,924. But again, all 3 bids were relatively in the same price range, especially the 2 lowest. I would recommend approval of a low bid from Apollo Trenches on the amount of $335,924 for the Appleton Force Main Extension. This work will be paid for from the Sewer Connection Fees Fund 0510, and the cost of this upgrade will be included in a revision of the East-West Hills Basin Recapture Agreement, which is ordinance number 782G. So again, with this project as well as the previous project, when that work is actually finished and we have those final numbers, then that's when those ordinances revisions will come back to the council for adoption, which means that that'll be part of the recapture when development takes place in those areas served by these lift stations and the force main, then that will be paid for by that development.
Motion to approve. Motion by Snow, second by Crawford. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Brings us to Water Systems SCADA upgrade.
A memo in your packet, our SCADA system upgrade for water wells, our current, which supervise the control and data acquisition system. The computers, the PLCs for 4 of our wells, as well as our master station, were originally installed about 20 years ago, and those have been discontinued. So it's time we need to upgrade those. We've got a proposal attached from Tri-R Systems. Tri-R Systems we've used them exclusively since the system was installed. That's some 20 years ago. We've had excellent service with them and very good results. Therefore, I would recommend that we waive the bidding requirement for this project and would further recommend approval of the proposal from Tri-R Systems in the amount of $75,950 for upgrading the water department SCADA system. This work will be paid for from the water depreciation account. And again, budgeted allowance. The original anticipation was that we would do this in components over time. However, because of the age and where we're at, we decided we needed to go ahead and do the master station as well as the 4 wells initially at one time. So I think we had like 45,000 or 50,000 earmarked out of the cost for that. But we feel it's probably more prudent to go ahead and do what the recommended amount here is tonight, which is the $75,950.
The bidding requirement will be waived at council. Approval of this goes forward, so motion to approve the cost of $75,950.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Crawford, second by Ratcliffe. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. Under F, we have a block party request at 3108 Countryside Drive. Motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Porter, second by Alderman Snow. Questions or comments?
I would just comment that this person has done the block parties before, and we have not had an issue with her.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Here. Alderman Snow.
For the police chief. So when people do have the block parties, do you ever get calls for service for those generally or not?
Generally speaking, no, not typically. From time to time, if we do get calls for service, it'll be loud noise calls or, calls associated with neighbors being disturbed, which generally will respond to try and get compliance, get the people that are putting on the block party to kind of turn down the noise, music, whatever the issue may be, and general compliance is pretty good.
Any other additional questions or comments concerning the block party? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Party on. For the city council, final approval. Which brings us number 5, other. Under A, we have an authorization to replace the damaged 2014 Dodge Durango. And again, this will require bidding requirement will need to be waived at council. So Chief will make his proposal about the replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you'll turn to the memo included in the packet, it would be for authorization to replace damaged 2014 Dodge Durango, squad number 18. On June 7th of this year, Officer Parker, while responding to an emergency call, driving Squad 18, was struck by another vehicle at the intersection of South State and Pleasant Street. Illinois State Police responded, conducted an accident investigation, ultimately cited the driver of the other vehicle as the at-fault driver. This will be the second accident this vehicle was involved in within the last year. Neither one was Officer Parker deemed to be at fault, but after the first one, it was deemed by the insurance company worthy of being fixed, which we put back into service. After the second accident on June 7th, the city's insurance carrier deemed the squad car to be totaled. Insurance payout is $15,229.25. A replacement 2019 Dodge Durango has been located at John Jones Automotive Group in Salem, Indiana. The cost of the vehicle is $33,621. The price of this vehicle is $87 more than the Illinois state bid. However, John Jones dealership is the only dealership in the country in which we could find a 2019 Dodge Durango police pursuit package. Our local dealership was unable to locate one anywhere else within the U.S. And looking at waiting for a 2020 model, we weren't able to be quoted an actual price, but we were just told that whatever that price would be, it would be more than what we could find a 2019 for. So the complete cost of the 2019 Dodge Durango K9 vehicle will be $46,637.86. The price including upfitting by Tri-City, as shown on the attached paperwork included in your packet, and $4,775 for lettering and extended warranty. The insurance check of $15,229.25 would leave a balance of $31,408.61, which, as shown below, we are requesting to use the money from the DUI Equipment Fund. These funds come to the city as a direct result of traffic fines when traffic violators are convicted of DUI offenses, which by statute we're allowed to use for DUI equipment, training, overtime pay, and obviously additional equipment. So the motion to authorize the purchase of one 2019 Dodge Durango at a cost not to exceed $46,637.86, with monies coming from the insurance check and remaining balance being taken from the DUI equipment fund.
A motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Porter, second by Alderman Crawford. Additional questions or comments? Alderman Snow.
So, a couple questions. Was anybody hurt? And did anybody actually wind up responding to Parker's call in the first place?
Yes, we were able to have other officers respond to the emergency call, which was also another accident. So other officers from the shift took that call. And yeah, Officer Parker did seek medical attention just to make sure, and he was treated for minor injuries.
Alderman Freeman.
So I have questions about this accident, but, I mean, if it's at an intersection on South State and East Pleasant, it seems like it would be a pretty, you know, if somebody, I don't know if was he turning from Pleasant or coming down State and the other guy was turning into him? Either way, it seemed like it would be a pretty low impact. My son drives an '08 Chevy Silverado pickup truck, and he got T-boned over on 251 about 2 weeks ago, and they didn't total his truck. So it seems to me like that's a lot to total it, but I'm not an insurance adjuster. So my other thing is, and this is his second accident, but this is also the second vehicle that's not on the replacement list budgeted. So when it does come time for those 4 that are on the list, you know, I'm going to want to have a discussion as to, do we really need to replace 6 new vehicles?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and that's exactly why we utilize the DUI fund and squad car replacement fund in this way. So that way, when we do have mid-year budget items come up that aren't budgeted and we need to replace equipment like squad cars, we're able to utilize these funds so it doesn't further impact the city's budget. As far as the other squad cars, you know, we presented the information at the beginning of the year explaining that these vehicles are higher mileage vehicles that potentially are going to start costing more than what we're getting from them, and we're trying to preempt the city from having to take on that burden.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 1 nay. Thank you. Be approved and forwarded on to City Council for a final disposition. At that juncture, I will request a motion for adjournment. Motion by Alderman Crawford. Second by Alderman Porter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now adjourned.